be a part of what Raleigh is going, and I appreciate you having me on today.
Now, Grady, I know that you also have done some amazing things here lately for us in the African American community. You really did spearhead some things for 3 years for Raleigh, North Carolina, even through a pandemic. So I would love to hear about that experience. I know you passed the mantle on, and now you have taken off that hat. But I want to say kudos to you, and I would just love for you to just share what that was like for you, and share for anybody who's never experienced it downtown or done anything at all with the African American Cultural Committee.
Yeah. So one of the realities that I have had the true opportunity to serve the public in many unique ways, and one of the ways was we were a part of the pandemic, and the world had changed dramatically. When we think about all that was happening in 2020. We were very much shut in. For those who are not familiar with the African American Cultural Festival itself, it is the largest festival, African American festival in the state of North Carolina. And so for the last 13 years, thousands of people would take a pilgrimage to downtown Raleigh to be a part of the African American experience through song, dance, entertainment, and upliftment. And one of the things was that during the pandemic, we had to learn how to shift and how do you serve the public in a way in which is still vital, there's still benefit, but make sure it was safe. So we have an extraordinary board that is very serious about how do you serve the public and adjust to our reality. One of the things about, the African American experience that we all know is we've learned how to adjust, and being a part of that experience alone, we had to learn how to create a safe way in which we could have a festival where the public can still be a part of it. The public can still feel as if they're having an African American experience, but make sure it was safe. So all the things that we did were virtual at that time. We were able to create workshops and create ways in which we had gave people all over the world the opportunity to see what the festival was about. And so in turn, what ends up happening with that is that because we had to utilize that platform, once we came out the pandemic, we already had the streaming capability. We had the opportunity to, we recognized there were people around the world that wanted to see what was going on in Raleigh. And so from there, we were actually able to create a new opportunity of streaming of income as well, because the reality was that, people were donating all over the country that was seeing what we were doing here locally. So it was a great experience. I really have to, say that, when people are in a pressuring situation, you get good people that step up. And we have an extraordinary board that really stepped up in this experience to show leadership, and we've all benefited from it.
And we know, if you are not familiar with it, I'm going to show you a flyer right quick. What you want to see is this is what's happening. You want to mark the calendar for September 2nd and 3rd for the big event that's coming up, because that's the big highlight. Now, you passed the mantle on. Can you tell us a little bit about the person who is going to supersede you and take over now?
Yeah, so one of the cool parts is that we actually always made history from the size of the actual festival to the amount of opportunity that we've learned how to transition. And we were happy to announce Dr. Laura Pathay as our new chair. And Dr. Bussey, she has always been a labor of love for the festival. She's always been committed to figuring out how do we make it, what we do better. And she stepped in during the time that we truly had a need with the pandemic and everything like that. So, like I said, it's the African American Cultural Festival is the longest listed festival that tells about the African American experience. Over 13 years now. And for her to be the first female to run the festival, it's extraordinary just to see not only the growth in the festival, but how we continuously raise the bar and break barriers.
Wow, that's amazing. And if anyone wants to get in contact with the committee, is it still openings for volunteers? Should they still contact you guys?
I would always tell people to go to our website at aacfestivals.org. What you'll do is you'll have the opportunity to see the festival, see what it's all about, get a better understanding of the ambiance and the experience. And then there's a link that says information, and there's a separate email. If you're interested in being a part of the festival as a volunteer, as a board member, if you want to do vending and things like that, that's where you would go. And like I said, it is one of these things that has truly grown to, length and bounds, and we're always looking for quality people that are willing to serve the public.
Wow. Now, Grady, I know that you also are doing a lot of things in the city. You've been in Parks and Rec for over 12 years, and now you are director over Chavis Community Center. And I know that you have some additional responsibilities as well. Can you tell us a little about that and what we can expect?
Well, it's a couple of things. So, yes. So, my stopping ground literally was the Parks and Rec system. When I was a student at St. Augustine's University, college back in those days, I remember walking to Lions Park Community Center back in the early 90s and asked for a summer job because I did not want to go back home to New York because I didn't want to be in my mom's house, right? Just like every other young person. And so I was able to get a job at, Lions Park, and I was a camp counselor, and I actually fell in love with the whole opportunity to serve the public. And one of the things I've always been, I always tell people about Parks and Recreation, which is different than anything else, is the fact that with Parks and Rec, you give a chance to pour into a child's life, and it's not like teaching. Like either you introduce them to new things. If you like it, you like it. If you don't like it, it's not the end of the world, And what Parks and Rec really did for me is give me a real sense that you can serve the public in a way in which, people truly appreciate it, So, I've seen children grow up. They've been in my camps. They've been in my after school programs. They've been in all my athletic leagues and track programs. And it's truly been a pleasure to support and be a part of the growth of Raleigh. And the Parks and Recreation system is one of the key aspects of why people move here. And I was recently the director of the John Chavis Memorial Park. I did just get promoted to our Housing and Neighborhood Department. But John Chavis Memorial Park was, one of those, I always call it as Mecca. And, people will come from all over the world to come see this unbelievable structure and grasp the hold of the history and experience of John Chavis Memorial Park. For those that are not familiar with John Chavis Park, John Chavis and John Chavis Memorial Park has two extraordinary histories. John Chavis was a teacher and a preacher. He was a Revolutionary War veteran. He was the first African American male to graduate from a college here in North Carolina. And so he was a Renaissance man of all Renaissance men. He was just in a whole class by himself. What ends up happening in the early 1940s, the reality was that North Carolina or Raleigh didn't actually have a black park for African Americans to go to. And so what the local African American leaders at that time did was push the name of John Chavis to be the person that would recognize the park. And so when the park came about in the 40s, it was considered like Black Disney World. At that time, you had people from all over the country that would come to John Chavis Memorial Park, and it was part of the Green Book, which a lot of people are familiar with. That was a safe place for African Americans to go to. And that was it. And, that was where all the family reunions were. for the African Americans, everywhere from Florida all the way up to New York. Everybody met at Chavis. And, as the city grew and as the city changed, the John Chavis location in that area became blighted. In the 80s and 70s, 80s and 90s, that was one of the most fearful places to go to in Raleigh, just because of the transition of that community became very transient, and a lot of bad things had happened. But in the 2000s, what ends up happening is that we had another wave of extraordinary leaders that wanted to make sure that we paid homage to the experience of the John Chavis Memorial Park and the experience of those that grew up there. And so 3 years ago, we had opened up this extraordinary new facility, and I was a director there for a little over a year, and it was great. I mean, just to see families come back. We had done some extraordinary things programmatically, and we kept the same ambiance of telling the good news about the city and telling the good news about Chavis. And then from there, I've just recently gotten a true opportunity to serve our public in our housing and our neighborhoods department. And so that's what I'm doing now. I'm in communities now in trying to, figure out new and exciting ways to enhance our own neighborhoods that we live in. And so it's extraordinary. I love the city. I've been a part of the city for a long time. And I've seen change, and I've seen leadership become very sincere about serving our public. And I'm just glad to be a part of that whole experience.
Wow. And you know what? It's special for me too, Grady, because one thing, my family actually grew up in Chavis. My brother and sister was raised in Chavis. Yeah. They were born in St. Agnes Hospital. My parents and my sister. I'm the only one that was actually born in New York City and raised in New York, but my family is from Chavis. So looking at Chavis, hearing the stories and seeing the evolution is exciting for me. Definitely exciting. So we thank you guys for everything.